Welcome to the Church Doctors Podcast with Scott and Marla Sheely. The Church Doctors Podcast is brought to you by Outpouring International. Love God, love people.
Hello, everybody. This is Scott.
And this is Marla.
And here we are again today doing another podcast. And what do you want to talk about today, Marla?
Well, I've got a lot of things on my mind.
We did go to a cool movie last night, though.
We did, and let's talk about that. It was called The God Man, and unfortunately, there wasn't very many people in the theater. I wish that the whole world could have seen that movie. It was kind of like a documentary, kind of.
Yeah. About
who is Jesus.
That's right. The God Man, of course, is Jesus, and they talked about him being fully God, but fully man in the earth, and fully God in heaven. But he was on the earth, and they kept going back and forth, interviewing a whole bunch of different ministers and people that loved Jesus, explaining how they saw Jesus in the earth and how we can believe that he was the Son of God.
Yeah, it was really good. I think his name was Darren Wilson.
Yeah, and he's done like 5 other documentaries, I think, 4 or 5 other ones that are all about, God's power being demonstrated in the earth and the move of Holy Spirit in different countries. And but I enjoyed this one. We went, and it was on a Tuesday night, and there's only one showing in the city we're living in.
It's only one showing worldwide or U.S. wide. There was only one showing.
It showed one night, yeah. So, but you can probably find it at some point later. They'll post it somewhere for you to see, I'm sure. But seeing it on the big screen was nice, and we got popcorn and candy too. Right,
and something to drink. Yeah.
But it
was really good. It was really good because, well, first off, he starts off by saying, I asked my daughter to help me.
Yeah. And
his daughter was, I think he said she was 15 or something, maybe a little bit older, and she was a prodigal. She grew up in the church. She grew up in ministry, and like a lot of people, she got hurt. She got just was burned out with church, just done. Yeah. And didn't want anything to do with it. And so he asked her if she would come along on this journey of filming who this God man was.
He actually hired her for a videographer position, which kind of put her in a position where I guess she thought in her mind, okay, I'll go work for Dad, but I don't have to have anything to do with this Christianity stuff.
Right.
Because she was
because she knew it all. I mean, she grew up in church.
She was said, openly in the movie that at that time she was smoking marijuana and doing drugs.
Yeah, and they showed pictures of her doing it.
Mm-hmm, yeah, mm-hmm. And so it was in your face, this is how I was before we went on the documentary, and then to see her change through the movie. Mm-hmm. So first they went to the one of the first places they went that I remember is they went into the city streets, into this place where back when George Floyd got shot by the police and it caused rioting.
That testimony that guy
people were burning down buildings and cars, and they went there and found a man, a black man that was preaching, who was married to a white woman. So it was like this setup from God. Like, here's these 2 people that are from different races, but they're married and love each other, and the guy's a Christian, and he's standing up there preaching about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And she's having to film this and listen to it.
Right. I don't know how much we should share because we want to keep some of this secret. If someone can go watch it, go see this movie.
Okay.
But the testimony was so good about forgiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, while he was still in his mother's womb, a guy killed his father, murdered his father. He never knew his father. And then he grew up, and then the guy was like, 90?
Yeah.
The person that had murdered his dad, and God told him to go
forgive him.
Go forgive him.
So we went and found him and forgave him, and they ended up being best buddies. As a matter of fact, the the old guy asked the preacher to do his funeral when he died. It was amazing. So that's true forgiveness.
The story of reconciliation.
You can become
there,
friends with somebody who killed your own dad.
Right. And then they went to a place called Hope, Alaska, and which is just a spot in the road.
Yeah.
And the
population 150.
Yeah. And they ministered to people and just demonstrated the gospel, really, right there in the street, right there on the porches of the cabins there.
Yeah, it was interesting that the things he chose to highlight was just people going about their every day, they planned this trip obviously, but they're just hanging out in this little village, just talking to people.
Well, they didn't know why they were supposed to go to Hope.
Yeah, just being
Alaska.
led by the Spirit.
Yeah.
He had a dream about a certain place, and so he picked this place just kind of, okay, let's go here.
Let's go.
And it just ended up being an encounter for several people. But it just reminds me of how if you're intentional with your gift and give God a chance to do something. Sometimes people sit around and wait for God to do something.
Right.
And I just the movie just highlighted, look, if you'll set it up, if you'll go, if you'll
make yourself a container, like we say.
Several times in different circumstances, he tried to go to places and couldn't go because of this or that. And then he'd set up
the door
a meeting,
would shut,
and the people would be an hour late or whatever. And yet, every time there seemed to be a setback or a problem when they couldn't go, month after month, for one time they couldn't go, but it just ended up being a setup, because if they hadn't been delayed, then they wouldn't have got to meet certain people. And but that to me is just, don't stop being intentional. I mean,
well,
just
like you said,
give God a chance.
The setback might just be a setup.
Yeah.
So if you think you're going backwards or things just aren't going the way you think they should be going, it could just be a setup by God for something great, for a miracle to happen.
Yeah, there's
a testimony of His goodness.
There's been tons of times we've seen God do that in our lives where we're like, oh dang, this is super uncomfortable. I don't like what's going on, and and then we just get this idea. Well, maybe it's not us. Even that's God's not waiting on us.
Right.
It's not our faith that's broken or anything.
Right.
We're believing God. Maybe what we're waiting for is timing, where God can move somebody else into a position, or maybe I just need to learn something new that I hadn't been aware of. And we don't learn things new while we're doing the thing
right.
we already know how to do,
right?
And so sometimes he lets us wait so we can learn the new thing, because that new thing is exactly what you need for the next encounter that you're going to have with.
That's right.
With people.
That's right. And you did bring up something else too. Being prophetic people, sometimes we jump the gun a little bit because we see the future, and instead of maybe waiting for it to be the right timing, we have to learn timing probably more than most people, because we are prophetic, because we want to go ahead and get into the future.
I mean, I'm always leaning into the heart of God. And one of the things that God does through the prophets and prophetic people is he shows us, he shows the church the will of God through that ministry gift. Mm-hmm. But when you see it, you think he's talking about right now.
Yeah.
Like, well, of course, let's go do it. And then you go tell everybody, and it's like they're not hearing that yet. Mm-hmm. It takes time. It takes planting seeds. It takes demonstrating what God's talking about. And you're right. It's kind of a catch-22 if you don't stay connected to the heart of God in the matter. Like,
right.
I'm black and white. I love seeing results. I've built houses and repaired houses all my life, pretty much. And even while I was pastor in churches, I was still doing some construction, even at the church. And so I just love starting a project and then seeing it finished. So my personality wants to see something get done. But man, when you see something heavenly, then I get all excited. Like, I can see the end result, and I want to start building and getting it done right now.
Yeah.
But that's not how God works very often.
Yeah, another reason I did construction was because I'm not very good at it at all. I remember one time I thought I had done it. The handle on my saucepan had come off, and I thought, I can fix this. I can do this. I don't need Scott to help me because he always has to help me change a light bulb, do whatever, and I'm going to do it. So I worked on it, and I screwed the screw back in. I was so proud of myself, only to realize that I had put the handle upside down. So yeah, I don't fix anything. I just totally leave that up to you, and that'll be the thing you'll have to do to the day we die, honey, because that's just not my forte. But anyway, back to the God Man. It was really neat to watch this because one of the couples that they interviewed was Marcus and Mariana Liotta, and they were from Brazil. And we actually stayed with them in their apartment and went to the city dump where they minister on a regular basis, and got to go into the homes homes, if you want to call them homes. They're shacks. They're shacks. They're made out of trash. Everything's made out of trash. They dig through the trash to eat, to live, everything. And so it was so neat to see Marcus and Mariana on the screen and being honored because it's an amazing ministry that they have there in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah.
They showed a picture of the little church that they have in the middle of the dump, and we were there. We walked that street and
we worshipped in
talked
that
to those people.
Yeah,
we did. We had a little time of worship with them, and we got to share a word with them, and to see that on the big screen was kind of surreal. We walked away
because we didn't know it was going to happen.
I know those people. I was there.
Yeah, I'm looking on my phone. There's our picture of him. You know,
it was really fun.
It was.
But if you have a chance to see this movie, God Man, it was so compelling, and so it stirred my spirit to remember that, you know, not everything happens right away. Some of the people's dreams in that movie that were fulfilled were over a period of like 7 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And during the documentary, the guy saw one of his dreams come to pass, and saw why God wanted to do that there, and it's just really cool. So, so God is a forever God. He's not in a hurry. Like, oh, I got to get this done. He's not. Yeah. He's not impatient. He loves us more than he loves what we do for him and with him. And sometimes the wait is like you said, we're getting better. We're learning the love of God, but also he's setting up the people that we get to meet.
Yeah. Yeah. So. You know, one of the things, a line that somebody said in this, and I don't remember who it was or what happened before or after it, but he said, Jesus destroyed doubt by sharing his scars. And I thought that was really good, because they were talking about how in the New Testament, doubting Thomas, and he didn't try to dispel his doubt. He didn't try to preach to him or do anything like that. He just showed Thomas his scars. He showed the people his scars, and that dispelled doubt. And, you know, we try to, I can see this in different ways, but one thing that we are very good at as humans is we don't want people to know our scars. We don't want people to know what's happened to us, or
we don't want to look damaged,
right?
Or like we've ever made a mistake ever,
right?
like there's anybody that hasn't.
Right. But we try to hide those things. And it was just really neat to hear him say, or her, whoever it was that said it.
It was the worship.
Was it? Okay, Jake Hamilton.
Jake Hamilton.
Yeah, he said, Jesus dispelled their doubt by showing them his scars.
Because the people he was talking to had lived some horrendous things in their life up to that point. And it's kind of like, you know, is my life worth anything now? Does what happened to me already, does that derail me from anything good happening next? And the beautiful part of that is God uses everything. He doesn't waste anything, is one of the things that I fall back on a lot is even the hard things that we've had to live and go through. He'll use that if we're transparent and humble enough to talk to somebody and say, this is what I've gone through.
I've walked this path,
and
yeah.
I feel like you're hurting too, and let Holy Spirit lead you, of course, and he'll lead you to somebody that needs to know the exact thing that you're dealing with. That happened to me today.
Oh, did? What happened?
It did. I was at work. I'm working on a house right now, and for a friend of mine, and the lady that is in charge of the job, her and I started talking, and we both had the same challenge going on with, trust in God, like with finances. And she was transparent enough to say that they were, and then I told her I was, and I found myself bawling right there on the jobs. I'm a carpenter, big tough carpenter. Right? I'm crying because I shared with her how some friends of ours recently helped put gas in our car,
right? And
that's all I said, and I was just so thankful that in all the little ways that God says, "Hey, I'm still here. Don't freak out.
Yeah,
it's like I'm faithful. I'm still going to come through." And so, because we were both willing to be transparent and say, and she brought up, sometimes God uses our very challenges to mold us into who He wants us to become. Maybe the challenge is just something to help remind you that this Christian life is about trusting God, and if you can't trust Him for everything, then at what level is your faith? Is He still your God? Are you still a milk and baby bottle Christian? Yeah. Or are you a Christian that can eat meat and you can endure things and you can go through hard times and never lose your trust in God? It doesn't. Paul said, whether I have a lot or whether I have nothing, I've learned that the love of God never changes, that He's enough for me.
Yeah, but if you don't trust Him anymore, then that means you've put something else in as God.
Right. Or that you're God.
Well, that's true, too.
I mean, if He can't come through and you have to stop trusting Him and fix it yourself, you've put yourself in the position of being God.
Right.
You're providing for you, and that's the job title of God. He provides for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And so sometimes we put Him on a shelf and say, "Well, I'm done waiting." Well, who says it? You can. That means you're done trusting too. I mean, you don't stop? You can't trusting God and loving God and serving Him. You can't turn that on and off,
right?
Because He never turns on and off,
right?
He is on all the time. All day long, all night long, every year after year, for forever before and forever in the future. He's the same.
Yeah.
And so,
and yet we keep going around the mountain.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't like the 11th hour stuff. I dislike that so much.
And we haven't lived, we've lived by faith a lot in our life, and we are right now too. But, we haven't gone around the mountain that many times, but every time it happens, you're like, is this it? Is this one of those? And you don't really know until you're into it for a while, and you're like, oh, I've seen this curve before.
Yeah.
How many times am I going to go around before I realize, oh, this could be one of those tests where God is, like my friend this morning at breakfast, I have a men's breakfast. He said, sometimes God pulls on the reins. It's actually a scripture out of Jeremiah. Can't remember the verse, but God pulls. If He pulls on the reins to the left, then we need to turn left. If He pulls the reins to the right, we need to go to the right. If He pulls both of them back, we need to stop. And if he takes them and slaps us with them, then we need to take off running, right? That's what the reins are for. And I think that sometimes He lets us exercise our trust and exercise our faith during a time of need, so that He can provide. So sometimes the challenges and the frustrations can be just God testing us, just giving us a chance to let him show himself strong on our behalf.
And I think a trap in this whole thing, though, is that we want to hurry up and get through this season instead of learning something too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm always thinking, oh, if I could just get through this season, I can be in the next season. And then you get to the next season and it's like, if I could just get through this season and I get to the next season or this next thing or this next event or this next landmark or the next milestone or whatever. And we never spend time waiting and trusting and resting.
I think the lie in that is that we're going to one time arrive.
Well, that's true.
And then all the things that make us uncomfortable go away.
Yeah.
There's nowhere we find that while we're living in this earth.
While the reins are being pulled, while we're resting, while we're just trusting.
Until we become the perfect bride of Christ, or until the day we die and we're instantly with him, we're living in the world that's not put back in order yet.
Right.
It still has the devil trying to deceive, and people that don't know God, even the people that say they do know God, are being nasty. And, we have all of these things. So I think that's part of the lie that the devil uses to, like a carrot, be frustrated right now because this is not right. God should give you something that's perfect, and one day you're going to arrive, but this isn't it. And so we get depressed, we get afraid, we stop trusting. Because it's like, I don't like this. When are you going to change this, God? And he's just giggling in heaven going, man, they don't like it when I pull on the reins. And so
which is kind of like the slingshot analogy that you've shared before. I don't know about on the podcast, but I know you've shared it when you've preached or
when we first
counseled people.
In the first maybe 5-10 years that we were married, so that would have been like 20 years ago. I was with the Lord, and he said that I was like a pebble, a stone, in the pocket of a slingshot. A slingshot is a Y-shaped stick with two rubber bands, heavy rubber bands on both sides attached to a leather pocket in the back. And when you stretch the rubber bands back and let go, that rock is going to fly out really fast. And people used to hunt birds with those things and small animals. And so he said I was the stone in the slingshot. And when he put me inside of that leather pouch, everything went dark. And I'm like, I can't hear God. I can't see. Where is God? Where's God? So this is the testing part where things are going rough and I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And then he grabs that pouch with his fingers and squeezes it so that he can pull it back. Then the pressure comes. And God's squeezing me, and I'm feeling more pressure. Now it's dark, and I'm being squeezed, and there's pressure. And then he starts pulling and stretching the rubber bands backwards. And so now I feel I'm in the dark. I can't see him. I can't hear him. There's pressure in my life, and now I feel like I'm going backwards. and it's just perfect description of what we feel like during testing times when things aren't all peachy and perfect. But then there came the point when he had pulled back as far as it was going to go, and he let go of the pouch. And when he let go of the pouch opened up, and light poured in instantly. And at the same time, I was going forward at a very accelerated, rapid pace. And so I was launched. And then he said, and I'll make sure you hit your target, because he's the one that aims the slingshot. And so it was so encouraging to me to know, and I just love telling it again because I need to hear this just as much as anybody else today. But it's encouraging to know that it's normal to be in places where you can't hear him. It's normal to go through seasons when you don't know how everything's going to work out. For instance, finances or relationships or, where you're supposed to live, what job you're supposed to have, who you're supposed to marry, all the things, all the decisions and challenges that come with every one of those decisions. And sometimes God lets us navigate those things for a while. It seems like we're alone, but of course we're not. And that's the point that we're trying to get across, is that even though you can't hear, you can't see, there's pressure, you feel like you're going backwards, hold on. Trust God, because there's going to come a day when light's going to stream into your life and you're going to be launched forward too. And so I've seen that happen over and over in my life. And so, and it happens more than once. This isn't a one-time thing. It just seems like He loves us so much that He won't leave us at one level. Like the Bible promises that we're going to go from glory to glory. So, but in order to get to the next glory, it's not like, you just get on the escalator and you just keep going up to more glory. I think that in between each glory, there's probably a pulling on the reins.
Sometimes we talk about how as you're walking through stuff, you'll say, I'm just having one layer at a time, like an onion pulled off of me. And well, it's kind of the same way going the other direction. One layer at a time being added from glory to glory, one more layer of gloriness being added.
That's good, because He's building us.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
I never looked at it the other direction.
Well,
a reverse onion.
And reverse onion.
Yeah, I'm a reverse onion. I didn't know. That's awesome. We could write a book, Reverse Onion. Yeah, I'm sure that would attract
that'd
lots
really
of people.
sell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Be one page and that'd be it.
So we want to encourage you today. There is a God-man. Jesus was fully God and fully man, and He lived on the earth, and He demonstrated what true love looked like by healing people, by restoring their hearts and their minds, by giving people just hope that God's here and He's partnering with us. And then Jesus handed off the baton and He said, now you go do what I did. And that's exactly what the movie showed. Mm-hmm. People doing the things that Jesus did, mm-hmm. being like Him.
Being like Him.
And it was so encouraging. It was very well done. Mm-hmm. And so we'll let you go watch it, and we won't
search it out. We won't tell you all the good
all
spots,
the stories, but
the testimonies.
Find out how to find The God-Man
by Darren Wilson
on YouTube or his website. I'm sure there's going to be a place where you can get it. But it didn't say on the movie what.
But they did have had a QR code so you could show it in your church, didn't it?
Yeah. So apparently it's available.
So if you can have it if you have a church, go to Darren Wilson's website for the God-Man.
Find out
see
what
if
it
you
takes to get
can
it.
show it in your church.
Yeah.
It'd be very good. It's about 2 hours long.
It's a documentary, but at the same time, it would be really good training to show people what it's like to be out ministering, to see the power
church.
of God manifest, to see love in action, and to be motivated to become like these laid down lovers of God.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
These people were oozing. I mean, I'm talking, when you saw their faces and you heard their voices, it was Jesus coming through them, in their eyes, in their laughter, in their tears. And it was so good. So we just want to thank you for being with us and for another podcast today.
And we'll see you again next week. And who knows what we'll talk about.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Church Doctors Podcast. For more information or to contact us, please visit our website at outpouringintl.com.